Anaheim Ducks, the Joel Quenneville rehiring. Just weeks after Bowman's hiring by Edmonton, the Anaheim Ducks hired Joel Quenneville as their new head coach in 2024. Like Bowman, Quenneville had been implicated in the Blackhawks cover-up, having been present at the May 2010 meeting where Beach's allegations were discussed. Quenneville had previously resigned as Florida Panthers coach in 2021 after meeting with Commissioner Gary Bettman following the release of the Blackhawks investigation report. His quick return to a head coaching position raised similar concerns about the NHL's commitment to meaningful accountability. The back-to-back hirings of Bowman and Quenneville created a pattern that suggested the league viewed the Blackhawks scandal as a temporary career setback rather than a disqualifying ethical failure. The Ducks faced criticism for sending the message that winning trumps accountability for serious institutional failures. Florida Panthers, the Quenneville resignation. When the Blackhawks investigation report was released in October 2021, Joel Quenneville was coaching the Florida Panthers to one of their best seasons in franchise history. The report contradicted his previous claims of ignorance regarding the Beach allegations, revealing he had been present at the meeting where they were discussed. After meeting with Commissioner Gary Bettman, Quenneville resigned from his position with the Panthers. The sudden departure forced Florida to change leadership during what would become a successful season, eventually leading to their first Stanley Cup in 2023. The controversy highlighted how the Blackhawks scandal had ripple effects across multiple organizations. The Panthers, despite not being directly involved in the original cover-up, faced significant disruption due to their decision to hire Quenneville without fully vetting his role in the Chicago scandal. Winnipeg Jets, the Kevin Cheveldayoff connection. The Winnipeg Jets faced their own connection to the Blackhawks scandal through general manager Kevin Cheveldayoff, who was part of Chicago's front office in 2010 and present at the meeting where Beach's allegations were discussed. Unlike Quenneville and Bowman, Cheveldayoff was not suspended by the NHL. Commissioner Bettman determined Cheveldayoff's role and authority at the time did not warrant discipline, allowing him to continue as Jets GM without interruption. This decision created controversy about inconsistent accountability standards, as the Jets continued to employ an executive linked to the cover-up while others faced suspensions. The disparate treatment raised questions about the NHL's standards for executive accountability and whether certain roles were held to different ethical standards than others. The Jets organization faced criticism for not taking independent action beyond the league's minimal requirements. Montreal Canadiens, language and cultural pressure. The Montreal Canadiens face unique pressure as hockey's most storied franchise in a predominantly French-speaking market. The team has repeatedly faced controversy regarding the hiring of non-French-speaking executives and coaches, most notably when unilingual Anglophone Randy Cunneyworth was named interim head coach in 2011, sparking protests. This ongoing tension reflects the team's cultural significance beyond hockey, serving as a symbol of Quebec's linguistic and cultural identity. The Canadiens operate under scrutiny that no other NHL team faces, with language politics influencing hockey operations decisions. The controversy highlights how some franchises carry burdens and expectations that transcend normal sporting considerations. The Canadiens must balance competitive needs with cultural obligations, creating a unique management challenge that has sometimes undermined the team's on-ice performance. Buffalo Sabres, star player exodus. The Buffalo Sabres have developed a troubling pattern of high-profile star players demanding trades out of the organization. Jack Eichel's acrimonious departure in 2021, following a dispute over medical treatment for a neck injury, represents the most recent example in a long line of stars who forced their way out. Before Eichel, Ryan O'Reilly requested a trade after stating he had lost his love for the game in Buffalo. Earlier stars like Chris Drury, Daniel Briere, and Thomas Vanek all left under contentious circumstances, suggesting a systemic organizational problem rather than isolated incidents. This recurring exodus suggests deeper institutional problems with organizational culture and management that have prevented the franchise from retaining elite talent despite high draft positions. The Sabres' inability to keep star players has contributed to the longest playoff drought in NHL history. Pittsburgh Penguins, 1998 bankruptcy. In 1998, the Pittsburgh Penguins filed for bankruptcy protection after accumulating more than $90 million in debt, despite having one of the game's greatest players in Mario Lemieux. The financial crisis threatened to deprive Pittsburgh of its hockey team, with relocation a serious possibility. The situation was particularly dire because Lemieux himself was owed $32.5 million in deferred salary. Rather than accepting pennies on the dollar like other creditors, Lemieux orchestrated an innovative solution, converting his debt into equity and forming a group to purchase the franchise. This unprecedented move saved the team from dissolution or relocation, with a player becoming an owner to rescue the franchise he had led to 2 Stanley Cups. The Penguins' near-death experience ultimately led to one of the greatest turnarounds in sports history, as the team later won 3 more championships. Washington Capitals, the Dale Hunter hit on Pierre Turgeon. In 1993, the Washington Capitals were at the center of one of the NHL's dirtiest plays when forward Dale Hunter delivered a late blindside hit on Pierre Turgeon of the New York Islanders during the first round of the playoffs. The attack came seconds after Turgeon had scored the series-clinching goal, celebrating as Hunter skated in from behind and viciously shoved him into the boards. Turgeon suffered a separated shoulder and missed the Islanders' next playoff round, while the league suspended Hunter for 21 games, a record at the time for an on-ice incident. The brutality of the hit drew national outrage and permanently impacted Hunter's reputation, casting a shadow over a Capitals era already defined by postseason frustration. The incident became the defining controversy in Washington Capitals history, a moment that forced the NHL to confront violence and retribution in its culture more directly. Vegas Golden Knights, the Marc-Andre Fleury trade. In 2021, the Vegas Golden Knights traded Marc-Andre Fleury, the face of their franchise and reigning Vezina Trophy winner, to Chicago for essentially nothing in return. The move was purely a salary cap decision, as the team sought to clear Fleury's $7 million cap hit. What made the situation worse was that Fleury reportedly learned about the trade through social media rather than from the team directly. This callous treatment of the goaltender who had led the expansion franchise to the Stanley Cup final in their inaugural season shocked the hockey world. The controversy damaged the Golden Knights' reputation for player treatment and loyalty, creating a rift with many fans who viewed Fleury as the heart of the franchise. The incident raised questions about how teams balance business decisions with the human element of the sport. Detroit Red Wings, the 1997 limousine crash. Just 6 days after winning the 1997 Stanley Cup, the Detroit Red Wings organization was rocked by a devastating limousine accident that severely injured defenseman Vladimir Konstantinov and team masseur Sergei Natsikhanov. The crash left Konstantinov with permanent brain damage, ending his career at its peak. The controversy centered on the fact that the limousine driver was unlicensed and had traces of marijuana in his system. The Red Wings had arranged the transportation for the celebration, raising questions about the team's duty of care and vetting the service they provided to their players. The incident led to significant changes in how teams manage post-championship festivities and player transportation. The Red Wings dedicated their 1998 championship to Konstantinov, but the tragedy permanently altered what should have been the beginning of a potential dynasty. Minnesota Wild, Marian Gaborik contract saga. The Minnesota Wild's defining controversy came with their failure to retain their first franchise superstar, Marian Gaborik. After years of contentious contract negotiations and disputes over injury management, the relationship between the team and their star player deteriorated beyond repair. Management, led by GM Doug Risebrough, took a hardline approach with Gaborik, publicly questioning his commitment and injury history. The team's medical staff and Gaborik frequently disagreed about treatment approaches, creating a toxic environment that made an extension impossible. Gaborik's departure in 2009 free agency represented a massive organizational failure to properly manage their relationship with the face of the franchise. The controversy highlighted the challenges expansion teams face in retaining homegrown talent and building sustainable success. Columbus Blue Jackets star player exodus. Similar to Buffalo, the Columbus Blue Jackets have struggled with a pattern of star players forcing their way out of the organization. From Rick Nash to Artemi Panarin to Pierre-Luc Dubois, the franchise has repeatedly failed to retain elite talent, often in very public and messy divorces. The most damaging was Panarin's departure, as the Russian star made it clear he had no interest in staying in Columbus long-term despite the team's playoff success. This was followed by Dubois requesting a trade just days after signing a new contract, creating a perception that players view Columbus as a stepping stone rather than a destination. This recurring pattern suggests fundamental issues with organizational culture and market appeal that have prevented Columbus from establishing itself as a destination franchise despite 2 decades in the league. The Blue Jackets' inability to keep stars has undermined their attempts to build a consistent contender. Nashville Predators, 2007 near-relocation crisis. In 2007, the Nashville Predators nearly left Tennessee when owner Craig Leopold agreed to sell the team to Canadian businessman Jim Balsillie for $220 million. Balsillie, the BlackBerry co-founder, made no secret of his intention to move the franchise to Hamilton, Ontario. The deal collapsed when Balsillie began taking season ticket deposits in Hamilton before the sale was approved, violating NHL protocols. Commissioner Gary Bettman intervened, and a local ownership group eventually purchased the team for a reduced price of $193 million, keeping it in Nashville. The controversy highlighted the precarious nature of non-traditional hockey markets and the NHL's commitment to maintaining its southern expansion strategy despite financial challenges. The Predators' near relocation became a turning point for the franchise, which has since built a strong fan base and consistent playoff contender. Ottawa Senators, Melnyk ownership instability. Under the late Eugene Melnyk's ownership from 2003 until his death in 2022, the Ottawa Senators faced years of financial uncertainty and public relations disasters. Melnyk repeatedly threatened relocation if attendance didn't improve and engaged in public disputes with local officials over arena development. The team's financial constraints led to the departures of star players like Erik Karlsson, Mark Stone, and Matt Duchene, alienating the fan base. Melnyk's combative approach included threatening to move the team during an outdoor game celebration and suing his own business partners. Melnyk's controversial tenure highlighted how ownership instability can undermine even established hockey markets. The Senators, once a model Canadian franchise that reached the Stanley Cup Final in 2007, became known more for off-ice drama than on-ice success during his later years. St. Louis Blues, Brett Hull versus Mike Keenan internal turmoil. In the 1990s, the St. Louis Blues were torn apart by the high-profile conflict between star player Brett Hull and coach Mike Keenan. The power struggle between the franchise's greatest player and the authoritarian coach created a toxic environment that destabilized the organization. Keenan, hired in 1994, immediately clashed with Hull over playing style and defensive responsibilities. The situation deteriorated to the point where Hull publicly criticized Keenan, and the coach stripped Hull of his captaincy. The conflict divided the locker room and alienated fans. The controversy culminated in Hull's departure to Dallas in 1998, where he immediately won a Stanley Cup in 1999. The Blues' failure to properly manage the relationship between their coach and superstar represented a significant organizational failure that cost them their greatest player and potentially multiple championships. Seattle Kraken, Ron Francis unwritten code management criticism. As a still new franchise, the Seattle Kraken have largely avoided serious scandal. However, their most notable controversy to date involves management conduct and transparency issues during early roster building and player treatment. In 2022 to 2023, several reports criticized general manager Ron Francis for his strict adherence to an old-school management code, where communication with players and agents was limited, most notably during the abrupt trade of veteran defenseman Mark Giordano. Media critics argued the move contradicted the team's early emphasis on transparency and culture building. Though minor compared to the league's historical scandals, the episode underscored the growing scrutiny modern franchises face regarding communication, player respect, and ethical front office behavior. For the Kraken, it remains their closest brush with controversy in their short existence.